Connecting to parts of yourself requires you to not just be aware that they're there, but that connection itself requires you to feel the emotion that they are carrying. I can become aware that a part of myself is there, but that awareness alone isn't enough. Yes, that awareness is beneficial and will help in so many ways, but I need to connect emotionally. So how do you do this? Let's say that this part of you has an abandonment wound based on your mother. We live in a time where most people, if not all the people in our lives, don't know how to be there for us in an emotionally healthy way. What that does is it causes us to have emotional abandonment wounds because we have been emotionally abandoned in our past. This doesn't mean our caregivers are bad, it's just the reality. And if I don't live in reality, I can't do what I need to do, which brings me on to the point of what we were talking about. I can become aware of a part of myself that holds an abandonment wound because I was abandoned by my mother. In order to connect to this part of myself, I have to live in the reality that this part of myself is living in, not believes is living in, not thinks is living in, but is actually living in. So if this part of myself feels like my mom messed up, and even that she's not a good mom because of whatever happened, then in the moment of connecting with this part of myself, I need to feel that. What stops me from connecting and living in the reality that this part of myself is living in, which is the way that I connect to it, is the rational sides of me. The parts of myself that have protected me from feeling the pain that this part of me is feeling, protect me by saying things to me like, well, she was a good mom. Overall, she gave me everything I needed. She was only trying to do her best. And this is true. I'm not trying to say that that's not true. There is no, oh, one's true, the other one's false. They're actually both true. But understand, in order to connect with parts of yourself, you have to live in the reality that they're living in. And if I'm using thoughts and reason to try and disprove and disagree with how this part of me is feeling, I'm making how this part of me is feeling wrong. And by making it wrong, I'm rejecting this part of myself. And we have this fear that if I actually take on this part of myself and live in the reality that my mom wasn't there for me, then I'm going to start thinking that. No, that's not what happened. And that's not why you would live in that reality either. You would live in the reality that that part of you is feeling for the moment that you're trying to connect to that part, so you can understand how this part of you is truly feeling, what this part of you needs. Doesn't mean you're going to go down a spiral road of believing that your mom was terrible to you. This is how we work as emotional beings. This is how the logical side of us is the main cause that keeps us from being able to connect to parts of ourselves, because we're always making everything so logical. The logical side when it comes to emotional healing has no place. What I mean by that is that these parts of ourselves, the reality that they experience, that they're living in, we have to validate that. And we can only validate it if we go into it and live the reality that they're living in that moment. There's so many behaviors in society as well, where if I would have said to someone, oh my God, my mom abandoned me and I feel terrible because of it, the response that we would get from anyone is, no, that's not true. Again, it's that invalidation. It's stopping me from living in that reality. And again, I'm not trying to make anyone bad here. This isn't me saying, oh, people are bad. We don't know what we don't know. And in order to connect to these parts of myself, I have to live in the reality that they live in. Now, there are many challenges along this path of self-healing. In order to discover my authentic self, I have to be able to take these parts of myself on. There are things to become aware of along this journey that stop you from being able to connect to these parts of yourself. I know this is a very challenging journey. Keep going. You're doing great.